Okay, we are recording now. Hi, everyone. We have a guest speaker here to talk about their work today. So I'm going to hand over the floor and let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Vargas, and I am a preschool school psychologist. I work in the Bay Area, and I'm happy to be here today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for meeting. We're so happy to have you. To start off, I'd love to know a little bit about where you work and how you became interested in your career.
Yeah, so I currently work in the Bay Area, so it's called Sunnyvale School District. It's a little farther away from you guys. And what got me interested in school psychology was I had taken a course with Dr. Wong when I was in my undergrad, and it was the child assessment course. And that really kind of like piqued my interest because I had double majored in early child development and psychology to get my bachelor's. And I was kind of like trying to figure out like how can I combine these two by working with younger students as well as still being in the psychology field.
Mhm.
And this was, I felt like something that I could do where I could still be paid enough because I wanted to be a preschool teacher, but I feel like sometimes they're not compensated for as much work as they do. So this was kind of how I got started in this field.
Yeah, lovely. And what would you say you needed to get started? I know that you mentioned that you went to school at Cal State, but what kind of credentials and skill sets do you feel like you needed to get started with where you're at?
Yeah, so I did actually attend Cal State for my grad program as well, and you guys have a educational specialist program that is on the psychology track, so you can be a psychologist if you go through this program. Some people I know their programs offer just like a master's degree, and so this was kind of a little more exciting because it's
Yeah,
called educational specialist, and
sure.
it's a little more work. So you need that, and you also have to pass a test called the Praxis, which that provides you your pupil personnel services credential that allows you to be a school psychologist.
Gotcha. How long would you say it took you to complete all of that education?
It took 3 years. So the first 2 years are a lot of like just attending classes and lectures and kind of like learning how to use the materials that school
Sure.
psychologists use and their day-to-day life. And then the last year is an intern year.
Okay.
So you have to complete, I can't remember how many hours. I think it was like 1,200 hours, and you have to, it might have been more because I worked the whole year actually. So you have to complete all of these hours, and that means that you're going to a school site every day for the full school day
Okay.
to work with a school psychologist who's kind of training you and being your mentor and teaching
Sure.
you how to do this job. And then we would meet with our professor once a week.
Nice, but that's great. You got a lot of hands-on experience, so you knew what you
Yes.
were getting into. Yeah, and I know you were saying that the salary is a little bit higher paying than a lot of preschool jobs. What would you say is a starting salary, or what would you expect if you're going to be a school
So
psychologist?
I think it really kind of depends on the area that you're also looking to work in. I think when I was looking in Southern California, some of them were like starting from like 60 to like 80, but in the area that in the school district that I work in, they start at $100,000. So it really just kind of depends, because if the cost of living in the area is higher, then they're really going to like pay you more to kind of compensate so you can
Yeah,
try to afford an apartment or something. So
sure.
but yeah,
That's
that's
a good
kind
point to consider. Yeah,
of,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Well, thank you for sharing all that information. Would you mind sharing a little bit about some challenges that you faced in your workplace and then maybe some strengths that you feel like you bring to the table or just enjoy about your work?
Yeah. So I think the biggest challenge was the year that I graduated was the COVID year.
Sure.
So we weren't like looking to move to the Bay Area, but the school districts in Southern California weren't hiring because they weren't really sure like what was going to happen, where school's going to open. So I ended up seeing a position up here that specifically involved preschool, and that was kind of what drew me to the area. and that they were actually hiring. So the biggest challenge I think was that my intern year kind of got short to where we had to switch to distance learning and like be on Zoom. So from like a normal school year is usually from like August to June, but we got cut short and had to stop going in from like March to June. So then my following year, which was my first year as a school psychologist, everything was virtual. So not only was I like a brand new school psychologist trying to figure out my job and like what to do, but I was also doing it virtually. And so that was kind of the biggest challenge. And just that grad school can't really, prepare you for everything that's going to happen, right? So some of those things you just like learn in your day-to-day experiences, and like getting like you think developmental milestones from going through your undergrad programs, but it's a little different. But as you gain experience and from year after year, I feel like I've gotten a lot stronger in those areas, which is good. So I think that was the biggest challenge.
Sure,
So
yeah, and I can only imagine getting all that practical experience in person and then having to completely make that shift and make it
yes.
work online. Yeah. I
Yes,
can only
yeah,
imagine
and
that.
we would have to do like play-based assessments online, and I mean, you can imagine trying to get an almost 3-year-old to stay in front of a camera the whole time, especially if you're assessing them, because they have a potential disability. That's even more of a challenge. So it was a lot of kudos to the parents for them trying to like be able to manage that, and they were really taking on that role of being the assessor.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I
You're
can
welcome.
imagine that there are definitely areas that could be challenging, especially if you're thrown in and you didn't expect from what you were getting it to be a
Yes.
little bit different. Yeah. What are areas that are strengths or things that you enjoy about your workplace or
Mhm.
things you feel that you bring to the table that are valuable in your work?
Yeah, I think so. And well, okay, going back to like one more challenge is that sometimes
Sure. Yeah.
the families can be like a little challenging to work with, especially if they feel that they've not been treated very well in the school system. But they can also be such a highlight of like working with the job, is because we get to build these relationships with our families.
Wonderful.
And since I strictly work with preschool, it's just such a like a wonderful experience to be kind of that first like person who's communicating with them, so that way they can have a really nice experience and know like, okay, these people are here to help, like they want to support us. And so that's really like a big highlight of the job. And then just seeing your students grow and make progress, like when we assess them, if they have a lot of needs and we're recommending maybe like a special day class, but then maybe the following year they've made so much growth that they're getting to go into the inclusion class. And so that's just another like really wonderful highlight that we can see them grow so much. So
Yeah, that's beautiful.
mhm.
As a former preschool teacher, I can too say that I loved building relationships with families and
Yes.
both ends. It really was rewarding.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, now that you've kind of given us a little teaser, I'd love to know about kind of what a day in the life for you looks like and how you use play in your work with the children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think like a school psychologist is a counselor. We do some counseling, not as much at the preschool level. When I was at elementary, like that would be something that I would do. But what we're primarily doing is assessing students to see if they qualify for special education services under the California Education Code. And there's 13 different categories that we look at. So that's kind of like what the gist of our job is, but we're also doing a lot of like answering emails. So kind of like I'll get in the morning and I'll check my emails. We visit a lot of like our classrooms to check in on our students and our teachers. Sometimes we have to go to outside preschools. So today I got to go do an observation at another preschool, which is also kind of exciting to see like what is going on in the community, what kind of programs are being offered. Um, a lot of meetings. So we have individualized education plan meetings where we're talking about if the student qualifies for services, what that looks like. And the school psychologist is usually running those meetings with the parents. And then we do check-ins with teachers, listen to like if they have any concerns or they want to try to do something better and see how we can support that. And then the biggest part really of our job is assessing students. So this is where like the play part comes in, which is really fun. Since I work with preschoolers, they're usually about 2 years old and 11 months all the way up until 4 years old.
Okay.
So we get to, our tools that we use are really looking to see like, can they do matching? So we get to do like puzzle activities with them, or sorting, or are they able to use like nesting cups? Do they stack blocks? So we really just have a classroom set up with all of these toys with like a dramatic play area. Are they able to like feed a baby or kind of like put the baby to sleep? How are they we're watching to see how they're interacting with their parents, how they're interacting with us, all while playing with them. So we usually have like our computers, our forms that we're using, which is kind of like a checklist.
Sure.
And then we're just kind of also like observing the interactions and what they're doing.
Right.
We do like a lot of singing with them. We bring books. We're trying to see if they'll like do the hand motions to the songs. Um, yeah, so that's really like play is really much like involved as part of the assessment. Since they're so young, we wouldn't really expect like give them like a book and like a standardized test and expect them to like answer questions, because
Right.
most of them are nonverbal or they don't really have that sitting tolerance.
Sure.
Um, so it's just really a lot of playing, which
Oh,
is fun.
that's wonderful. Yeah. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about the assessment tools you use. We've been learning a little bit about some, and some folks are going on to take the assessment courses or have already taken them. So I'd love to hear kind of what are you looking for in your assessment tools? I know you said that you're helping students to get services, and each student, I'm sure, has individualized needs of what you're looking at.
Yeah, so we're using tools that are really depending on, like you said, individual needs. So depending on what the concern is, primarily we see a lot of concerns surrounding like social skills, communication skills, play skills. So the tools that I use, since I'm only like assessing in certain areas, since we have other team members who are looking at certain areas. So like we have a speech and language pathologist who looks specifically at the communication. We always have a special education teacher involved who's looking at how is the student playing? Is it developmentally appropriate? What are their pre-academic skills like, such as like colors or matching, scissor use, those types of skills that they would need for in the classroom. And then what the school psychologist is looking at is really their social emotional skills. So are they interacting with other children? We're looking at their attention. How long are they able to stay with like a preferred activity or a non-preferred activity? How are they following directions? And then we're also looking at their cognitive abilities, which kind of, there's a lot of overlap between that and what the teacher is doing as far as their pre-academic skills. Since they are so young, we're really just looking at, can they stack blocks? Are they doing, are they following directions or matching, those types of skills? So that's really the main part of our assessment. And we use a lot of, since they spend a lot of time with parents, we're also giving parents a lot of forms too to fill out, which is sometimes kind of overwhelming for them, but they know their children best and they spend the most time. So we send rating scales to them and they're answering questions that are similar to what we're looking for while we're doing the assessment. And they're either indicating that yes, their student can do that or no. So a lot of rating scales and checklists are being used as well as our observations.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share just about yourself or your work that I didn't ask you already? And that's
Mm,
okay if not too.
I'm just thinking, I mean,
Or
no, I
any
think,
advice you might have for students who are potentially interested in a career path like this, or recommendations for
well,
them?
I think that, I mean, it's really such a wonderful field and we do need school psychologists. I mean, this is like a job that has like it's backed by like federal mandates. So it is a requirement. Every school district does need to have one. And we get paid very well. We have holidays off. So usually like we just work during the school year. We work during the summer if we want to. And so that's always nice. You can get a little extra money, but I think that it's for anyone who likes working with like children and kind of in like a different setting other than being a teacher, then I think that this is a really good role for people to pursue.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Well, that's all I have for you today. And I just wanted to thank you for joining me and sharing all about your work and taking time out of your day.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Lovely. And then I'm going to have students pose questions. So I'll be reaching out to you again if and when they have questions. And then we'll hopefully hear back from you soon.
Okay,
So
sounds
much,
good.
Ashley. I'm
Thank
going to
you.
stop the video now. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.